Shift is where every Wednesday we spend 15 minutes looking at one important change AI is creating in business. Not the latest tool, not another prompt, but what AI is actually changing about the way businesses work, compete, and grow. Hi everyone, my name is Craig, and it's very good to be with you today for another edition of the AI Shift. And today we're going to talk about what happens when intelligence is no longer scarce. And this is what we think is one of the biggest shifts of all with AI. For most of modern business, and I suppose most of the time of mankind, is intelligence has been scarce. If you wanted more research in a business, someone had to do the research. You had to employ someone or get an agency. If you wanted deeper analysis, someone had to spend time analysing the information. If you wanted to understand a customer better, someone had to gather the information for you. And even if you were writing proposals, someone had to spend longer and longer time preparing it. More thinking required more skill time, and more skill time meant more cost. So everyone built their businesses around that reality. But AI changes that. We are moving from a world where intelligence was scarce and expensive to one where we can apply far more intelligence to far more work at dramatically lower cost. And that raises a bigger question. What can AI do? What can AI do? A bigger question than what can AI do is what happens to the way we run a business when one of the constraints we designed it around begins to disappear, such as was the case here with intelligence. You're spending more research required more time, more analysis required more expertise, more thinking required more cost. Now, let's say you're running a sales team and you had 10 opportunities come into the business. Would you have someone spend 2 hours researching every single opportunity? Probably not. It wouldn't make sense to do that. You'd qualify them first, which ones look serious, which ones are fit our ideal customer, which ones are worth pursuing. Then you would invest more time in the opportunities that look promising. And businesses made decisions like that constantly and still do. We don't analyse every piece of operational data. We don't deeply research every prospect. We don't personalise every communication. And certain large businesses don't have a senior manager examining every decision. And we don't do that because the intelligence required to do them has historically had a cost. Someone has to spend the time, someone has to have the expertise, someone has to do the thinking. So through natural choice or through the way things worked, businesses became very good or structured themselves around deciding where is it worth applying intelligence and where isn't. And that was the constraint. And here's what happens then with that constraint. Because that constraint didn't just affect productivity, it shaped the way we design businesses. We specialised. Sales, new sales. Marketing, new marketing. Finance, new finance. Operations, new operations. So we created management layers. Businesses created management layers. When a decision became more complicated, it moved to someone with greater experience. That's why we had sales reps reporting to the sales managers reporting to state managers, branch managers, whatever, another level of management. Then that manager reporting to another level of management until it eventually worked its way to the top. When a decision became more complicated, it moved to someone with greater experience. So businesses created approval processes. And they standardized routine work so people didn't have to rethink everything every time. And we prioritized. The biggest opportunity got more attention, the most important customer got more analysis, the difficult decision went to the manager. And that design made sense. So we designed the business to ration scarce intelligence. And that's the important thing. We designed the business to ration scarce intelligence. But then something changed. AI now changes the economics of intelligence. And that's more important than just saying AI can write an email or AI can create a report. Those are applications. The underlying shift is that we can now apply intelligence to situations where it previously wouldn't have been economical. Think about that. Even when you outsource your email writing to AI, you are letting its intelligence determine what to write. Because maybe you want something that's got more of a copywriting feel to it, or something of a more of a different marketing feel, or a sales feel, or operations feel. And you're asking AI to craft such an email based around the constraints and the criteria and the directions you give, but to use its intelligence to create the email. So we are all applying that intelligence in different applications. Now, if we went back to previously in the presentation, we spoke about having 10 sales opportunities. And they'd come through and maybe someone would have a quick look and say, we'll go with the top 2, we'll leave the other 8 there, and we'll get to them when we get a chance. AI can now research all 10 for you. They can look at the company, look at its market, look at previous interactions, look at people involved, look at potential problems, look at likely needs, and prepare that information before the salesperson even picks up the phone, switches on their laptop, logs into their computer. The other one now is customer service. How often would you have spent in the past analysing customers' conversations and feedback and emails to identify recurring problems? You probably never did, or it was allocated and it was a significant cost or time requirement to complete the exercise. Now AI can potentially do that, analyse those conversations in a matter of seconds for you. So that's why we feel that just focusing on productivity misses the bigger change. AI can make existing work faster, but the bigger opportunity is what intelligence can we now apply that we couldn't economically apply before? And that's a very different question. Now, we spoke about the constraint earlier, the constraint being the level of intelligence and how expensive it was to apply intelligence to everything. But this is where we think that you need to pay attention to this. When AI removes one constraint, it doesn't mean the business suddenly has no constraints. It doesn't mean suddenly you're in utopia and it's a brand new feeling for you. The constraint moves. So let's have a look at marketing and go back to a problem where you may not have had enough capacity to create content. You limited yourself to one blog a week because the time it took to research, draft, write, post was you're constrained by the amount of time you could apply to that. And that's the constraint. The constraint wasn't what you thought about doing. The constraint was putting your resources that you had available to you, whether it be capital, time, energy. Capital, time, and energy. Now, AI can dramatically increase that capacity in terms of you with marketing and writing content. Now you can create 10 posts, probably in the time that you took to write one previously. You can create numerous amount of social posts. You can create emails, you can create videos. But then what happens next? You got to think about what should we actually say, who should we say it to, what deserves publishing, and what makes us different. So producing or the production of the content has weakened. Another constraint has appeared: judgment, differentiation, and attention. And that goes through every part of your business. If you look at sales, more you can now do research and do market research. And now you can research every opportunity. But then judgment is the thing. Which ones should you then pursue after you get all the research? Which customers get the more attention? Again, the constraint has moved from here further up the line to here. And then if you go just to business leaders and department heads, they need better information. Now AI can analyze every piece of data you have. And they can do it in the blink of an eye every morning for you. Suddenly, you need to determine what matters and what are we going to do about it. So AI doesn't eliminate business constraints. It will just move them. And if you keep managing the old constraint after it has moved, you can optimize the wrong part of the business. So what should change? And this is where you need to look at your business. And I know the temptation is to put AI everywhere because everyone tells you AI should go everywhere. I don't think that's the answer. I don't think that's the answer. When we look, and my favours, I love comparing AI to electricity. Because if you read anything about how electricity evolved and came about and what happened with business and life and everything like that, I think AI follows a similar path. And that's just my view of things I have read. But when electricity came and we had PowerPoints, and people could then have PowerPoints in a house, you didn't go around and say, I want 10 PowerPoints in every room. You thought about your room and said, where do I really want the PowerPoint or the electricity in this room? Same again when they did manufacturing. Where was the more beneficial to have the supply of electricity? They didn't have 10 million PowerPoints to plug all the machinery into. So they asked, where is electricity useful into the structure of the business then? The same applies to you and AI. It's not where can we put AI. It says, where would additional intelligence materially improve the outcome? Is it before a salesperson talks to an important prospect? It could be. Before improving a significant discount? It could be. Reviewing hundreds of customer complaints? Worth considering. Writing another generic social media post simply because we can? Probably not. And that's the discipline that you now need. Because when intelligence becomes abundant, which it is with AI, the ability to generate more isn't necessarily the advantage. Knowing where to apply it becomes the advantage. And that's a different capability. Everyone has access to the most powerful AI ever. And that's a silly statement, really, because tomorrow it'll be better because of all the changes in what they do. And AI is just getting better and better and better. But everyone has access about that. Your competitors can, your customers can, your suppliers can, your employees can. Everyone, even with their apps now on your phone, that ChatGPT and Claude and all that have available to you. At your fingertips, you have access to an extraordinary level of intelligence. An extraordinary level of intelligence. But everyone else does too. So having access to that information is not your competitive advantage. The more interesting question comes, what do you do with it that someone else doesn't? Like, do you understand your customers better? Do you have better business context? Do you make better decisions? Can your people act on those decisions quicker? Does your business learn from what happens? And that's where we think the advantage starts to move. For decades, businesses became very good at managing scarce intelligence. We decided who got access to expertise, where analysis was worth doing, what customers deserve more attention. AI changes that assumption. And when an underlying assumption changes, eventually the business designed around that assumption has to change as well. So the question for you this week to contemplate, to think about after today or on Thursday or Friday, don't start by asking where can I use AI or where should we use AI in our business. Instead, look at your business and ask, where will we make a better decision if applying more intelligence suddenly cost also almost nothing? Maybe it's sales, maybe it's pricing, maybe it's customer service, maybe it's marketing, maybe it's operations. Maybe it's a decision you make every week. Think about it. Because the opportunity isn't simply to do what you already do faster. The opportunity to start applying that intelligence where the economics previously made it impossible. For most of business history, intelligence was something we had to ration. It was scarce. AI is changing that. The question now is what we choose to do with it. And that's the AI shift this week for you to contemplate with your business. We're changing what we talk about with the AI shift a little bit because we're now getting into the fact that your business structure, the business you have designed, needs to change. And not because of AI tools, but because AI gives you access to an extraordinary level of intelligence that previously was scarce, but it is accessible to everyone. So think about that this week. The question for you is now, what do you choose to do with this intelligence and where to apply it in your business? I thank you for your time this week. I hope you got something from that, and I hope you spent some time thinking about what AI and especially abundant intelligence now means for you and your business. Please leave us a comment, feedback, or question below to help us improve and topics you may want to talk about in the future. We look forward to catching up with you next week when we present another edition of the AI Shift. Until then,